Hello, friend, wherever you are, would like to say hi. And we hope that you're doing well in every way that God has made possible for you to be living. Twabachira, twabagira ndi tubenda, abasoga tubenda ino wona we muli. We are introducing something new that is going to be life transforming, life impacting over there. Wadada, wasichana, wajana wote, tumependa, we love you wherever you are. And we want to pray that you'll be a part of this space. You like this and you'll share this, because we believe that God is doing something new in our generation, especially for the young generation that may have lots of questions. Just watch this space, invite your friend, and share this, even as we get underway to start unveiling this. It is something new, and it comes up to address real life at the intersection of faith. And friend, just like you're going to be seeing it, it will be impacting in your life. My name is Reverend David Kagwa, by the grace of God, and here with me is my colleague, Reverend Esmond Serunjoji, on my immediate right, and then the extreme right. As the time comes, you're going to see Reverend Colonel Captain Titus Baraka when the time comes. Friends, have you ever asked yourself a question like, what does life mean? Have you looked at situations that are real, especially when it comes to faith and life? Do you know that there are lots of questions that concern us as believers that are never addressed? I mean, how many times have you heard stuff like sex being discussed in church? Like, how many times, I know you understand me, how many times do you get that opportunity to bring questions across right to the man on the pulpit? Like, if God created sex, then why can't I have sex my way? And do men on the pulpits and women on the pulpits, do they create time to answer this stuff right there on the pulpit? Questions of that nature. I mean, how many times are we addressing stuff like addictions? Like, I'm struggling with addiction and stuff of that nature. How many times are we discussing stuff like achievements and the balance between achievements and my faith? You see that, my friend? So, we are introducing something that we believe is going to be transformational, it's going to be, groundbreaking, it's going to be life-changing, and it is entitled Real Life and Faith. It is an intersection of wisdom, experience, and life and faith. In reality, you're going to be experiencing and meeting Jesus at, the well. Like, Jesus went and spoke real life to this Samaritan woman. You're meeting him at the well. He's speaking water issues and yet giving you life at the same time. That is what we are going to be addressing most of the time. We shall speak real stuff, the way that it is, and yet, giving you the truth without editing it in any way, and yet you're encountering God in a way that changes your life where you are. That is the essence of this program, of this show, of this platform, however you're going to be receiving it. Praise the Lord. Now, permit me to tell you a story of a young man that defines exactly what we are talking about here, and then we shall unveil the topic that we have for today. And you'll be seeing lots of things here, testimonies, people that have lived life. There's an African saying that says that when you lose the way, you finally find it. People that have lost the way and they finally come back to it. You see, when you fall down, you eventually get to see the way better because you're on the ground. When you stand up, you're able to walk in a better way. Now, briefly, there is this young man that was raised in a Christian setting, my friend. The life that he knew was study the Bible, read that Bible, and pray in the evening, pray in the morning, go to church on Sunday. That was the life that he lived. And all that the parents told him was, this is what you have to do. Don't go here, don't go there. But they never told him what to do, especially in the perspective of real life. You see that? So one day he goes to school, and around senior one, on a bright Monday morning, he encounters a group of young men and women that he was studying with, fellow students. They had gathered around a desk, many of them, and incidentally it was his desk. So he goes and bumps into one of them and tells them, this is my desk, get out of the way. And he takes his eyes, and where do they land? On a Playboy magazine that these people are watching in the morning, with women and men naked doing stuff. You see, having sex. And this boy has been raised up in the church. All the parents tell him is, don't do this, don't do that. You know, all he had to go to was church, school, the shop, and back home. He had never seen a naked person, especially an adult. He could see his siblings. You see? So the boy went ahead and borrowed this magazine without the knowledge of his parents. Now he started getting into this addiction of pornography, started watching this day in, day out. Now don't forget that he carried on with his church life. He's doing the readings, he's doing the preaching at that young age, and you know, he's the darling of the pastors at church. And this stuff is happening, my friend. Now, other parents are carrying their children to his parents' home for one reason. This boy is like a superstar. He is the standard of the epitome of behavior. So they are bringing their children so they can learn from him. And meanwhile, he's struggling with stuff that not even his parents know about. But he puts on, this cosmetic life on the outside. And friend, even before we go deeper, how many people are living like that? How many people are dying in the exquisite silence of their cosmetic holy life? And yet they continue to go to church, and this real stuff is not addressed. And friends, at some stage in life, he breaks into masturbation. Now he combines the two. He continues to go to church, but he's empty. He cannot speak to anyone because he's the spiritual superstar. And everyone looks at him. And a point came when the reality had to catch up with him, and he simply says, I cannot go on like this. I want to rest. And a voice instantly comes and says, I want to give you rest. And what does the voice say? Kill yourself. And the boy was planning to commit suicide, save for the mighty hand of God that intervened. Friend, today that boy has grown up, and that boy is me. Praise the Lord. That boy is me. It was just the mighty hand of God that intervened in my life to save me. But friend, the lesson that we are bringing here and that I encountered in life is that life is real. And that many of us, the Christianity that we are doing, including as pastors, at certain times is a brand that is not real at all, that cannot impact many people. Why? Because we keep, pounding people with the word, pounding people with prayer, and that is not bad in its own right. But the problem is, it does not address real life issues. Issues are not addressed the way that they should be. And this show brings to you, real life quoting faith. You see, this show marries, is an intermarriage of real life and faith. And it is entitled Real Life and Faith. We shall be answering questions like, if God created sex, why can't I have sex? My way. If I have my partner, why can't I have her as long as I'm sure that I'm finally going to marry her? What is the problem with that? I'm struggling with pornography. I'm struggling with lesbianism, but God created all these fantasies. Why can't I have them? You see, such questions and such concerns are what we are going to be addressing in the Jesus at the well approach. That is what we call it. Jesus at the well. He meets this woman and talks stuff there. Jesus would be meeting you at your point of need, and we don't want you to edit things and to hide them. We are not going to use the approach of pounding you with this holier than thou stuff and pulpit stuff, but it's a different approach. We are doing real life, and Jesus is meeting you at the well, right there where you are. And we believe that it's going to be transformational. It's going to be big, especially for the young people. We shall speak your language because, that is where we've been. Praise the Lord. Now today, we are starting with something that is entitled the ABC, or the foundation of sexuality and relationships. The foundation of sexuality and relationships. Now, at this point, I'll turn to my friends. And friends, these days we see lots of stuff that is happening. The proliferation of sex, we see it all over the media, and lots of people are making money out of it. Beautiful girls that have every curve in its own right place. You see, I mean, what is wrong with someone using their beauty or what God has given them for a living? Is there anything wrong? I mean, we are asking such questions. Young ladies walk and they are shaking what their mama gave them. I mean, is there anything wrong with that? We want to find out and see, is there a way we can tone it down a little bit? If I'm sure that I love him, why can I not sleep with him? You see, why can't I have a relationship with whomever I wish? You see, that kind of thing. So we want to start from there. We want to talk sexuality today and relationships, but we shall zero in largely to relationship and intimacy, because sexuality is a very, very big thing. And friends, that is where we are at today, and we shall start at that point. Now, permit me to start with the Reverend Canon Captain Titus Baraka. Now, Captain, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe a few remarks of introduction, and then we shall be good to go.
Thank you so much. I am really very privileged to have this moment. As David was talking, my mind went back to my childhood with a lot of things that were happening. And I am Reverend Canon Captain Titus Baraka, the director in Words of Hope Radio Ministries. But I was once a young man.
Of course,
and all what Reverend David has been talking, I began imagining about all these things. The issue of intimacy. Before I come into relationship, I imagine my childhood being exposed to, as I was growing up, my parents telling me, don't do this, don't do this. When I touch certain parts of my body, some parts are called the rats, and say, don't touch that rat. and so I began getting careful about certain parts of my body.
Interesting.
And then as I grow up, I begin having some body parts of my bodies feeling sensitive and funny. I begin saying, now what do I do about this? And then eventually, as I go to school, 9 years, I begin playing with the people of opposite sex. I have no feeling, I have no problem. We sometimes even don't care about what happens and what we see.
Yeah.
And then at a certain age, when I come to about 14, then I begin feeling very sensitive. Sometimes I wake up in the morning when I'm really, really feeling very funny.
But remember, you still have this perspective of don't touch that.
Don't touch that. Yeah, exactly. Is not proper. Now, my parents and the culture around me tells me, be careful of this. I hear girls being told, be careful of boys. And me being told that, be careful of girls. I begin saying, and now here are some feelings. Nobody sits me down to tell me, you know, in your body there will be these changes.
You have to vent for yourself.
I have to find out, why is my body feeling like this? Why am I having this kind of certain parts of my body getting up and feeling sensitive? What do I do about it? And yet I've been warned. So I begin, that's where I begin. The issue of intimacy. I begin going to experience it in private. I go into my bedroom and I begin saying, hey, you guy, why are you getting like this? Why are you feeling funny?
And I guess the guy is talking about there.
Yes. So these are the kind of things. And then eventually I get exposed to the issue of faith. And somebody tells you, no, you'll go to hell if you do this and if you do that. Now I walk with the hell inside me. My parts of the body is what directs me to hell, and it is more active than the hell which I haven't seen.
Now a moment, Captain Titus.
Yes.
And parents that are watching us, these are very important things. I hope you're taking notes, and maybe you'll act to avoid these mistakes. But let us carry on. I mean, here is a young man, is introduced to faith, but also has been warned against certain parts of his body, and then God created all these. Now, do you see that kind of dilemma? And how many young people are struggling the same way? Please carry on.
Right. Yes. So this is the kind of things I fall into a kind of confusion about intimacy, sexual feelings in my body, and how to treat my body. And what are certain things, because it is a taboo, certain things to do it, to speak in public. But yet I don't have anybody to teach me. When I go to church, church leaders will preach warning about hell. And here is hell I'm struggling with inside myself.
Yeah.
And really that puts me into a big, big challenge.
Oh,
that challenged me into developing two worlds. A private world and a public world.
For public consumption.
For public consumption. When I'm in my private life,
you're different.
there are certain things I do. When they are exposed, I want to run away. Because I begin exploring myself, touching certain parts of my body. And yet, when I get it, I get some results that come out. Like when you expose into masturbation, when you expose into touching certain feelings that feel well, that is what, there is something about the peeping Tom, where you want to see certain ladies who are exposed in some way, and you hide somewhere and you peep in
bathing,
them because you know it's not acceptable in public. That puts me into devastating life.
A personality
It
crisis.
is a real life. I am experiencing the real life, but yet the faith that is exposed to me, the culture that is exposed to me, and the words from my parents that are told to me, the values are different from what I'm experiencing. I ask myself, how do I go about this?
Yeah.
That is what I will just really say about
okay. Friends, I hope we are getting somewhere and you're hearing this. So someone gets into a personality crisis. You're fighting with your very self. You are an enemy to yourself, and yet you're trying to find solutions that no one else is giving. I want to turn to Reverend Esmond Serunjoji right now at this point. You're welcome, my brother. A few introductory remarks, and then we shall be good to carry on.
Yes, it's a pleasure for all of you that are viewing us. I'm so blessed to be with these servants of God, Reverend Canon Captain Titus Baraka and Reverend Daudi Kagwa. It's a pleasure to be talking about real life and faith.
Yeah.
Real life and faith. Like they say, many of us have grown up living different worlds. The world that our parents know nothing about, and those who think are in control of us know nothing about.
Yeah.
And the world that masks to be a Christian world, especially some of us that have been raised in Christian families. Now, it is very important to know that the life we're living in is a real life.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate bit about it is that the world there is so open about real life. And yet, as men of God and servants of God are silent about real life things.
Absolutely.
I mean, every time they are quoting us 1 Corinthians 6:19.
Yeah.
No idolater, no immoral person shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. That is very okay. And we are very biblical in scripture. If we take that direction, we can really go very far. But the issue is there is real life. Growing up as an orphaned boy, I grew up with my paternal auntie, and the focus was kusoma. Everyone, make sure you read hard. Everyone, discipline wherever we are.
But meanwhile, you're not in an individual school. There are other people there.
Everyone, work hard, pray, do work. Do not shame us wherever we've placed you. As those things are happening, we are growing up. The body is changing. The world there is trying to offer us lots of things.
Yeah.
Lots of things. Others, we are searching for them. I remember my life walking from the village, going to the cinema hall. We used not to have these smartphones.
Yeah.
That you may go on YouTube and then watch a movie. We didn't have that stuff. But we used to go to the cinema halls to watch what? Blue movies, pornography.
Oh dear.
Here is a boy being raised in a Christian, like in a family, because my Jaja was a Mzuku.
And of course, when you went back to Jaja, did you tell her I've been watching a blue movie?
How can you dare to say that? You are sinful.
Okay.
You are sinful if you dare say that. And so growing up in such kind of a life, like you are masked to appear beautiful and good
You see that?
before your parents, and yet before the people that
Know you.
before the people that know you, you put on that context of I'm good, I pray, I read the Bible, I'm a disciplined child, I'll run very fast and bring whatever you're sending me for. And yet in real life, you know what? There is a blue movie that you're watching somewhere. I remember one time I was in a school that I don't want to mention, and then we have a group of peers, and then that is people think these things are new. Group sex is not new.
Yeah.
And then these fellow young people are saying, we have something special that we want you to see. And oh my goodness, they would take girls in the same room
Oh dear.
and have sex with them at the same time. That I was in senior one.
And some of them are exchanging.
And
Now give me
senior
yours.
And these things of group sex are there. Nayenga, we grew up being told, you don't even talk about them. So you struggle with something, and they are telling you how good it is, how you should join. Like they tell you, just imagine you are watching a group of your peers having sex at the same time with girls in a group.
Now listen to this. The world is open to disciple,
Yes.
to disciple us, including Christians.
Yes.
And the church is selective in the way that it is discipling his people. That's what you mean.
Exactly. And so, like Captain Titus says, and you said it very well, if we are not willing to talk about sex,
Then the world will.
to talk about
Addiction.
to talk about being the kojas and the basengas in the most beautiful perspective that God wants us to talk about it, the world is so aggressive.
It is.
It is ready to offer rubbish.
It is all over YouTube. It
Yes.
is all over,
Yes, and they talk about real things that people want to hear. They will say sex, and they will talk about the types, and they will talk about the what, and how you approach the girl, and how you do what, and then you come to Reverend Desmond, who will tell you the Holy Spirit will teach you.
And of course, we are casting demons out
Pray
of
the
you.
guts out of me. Reverend. Pray out of me.
You hear that?
The Holy Spirit will teach you how to approach a girl, how to romance, how to have sex, how to do all these kind of
And
things.
our counseling sessions are just 1 day, 2 days.
Yes.
And meanwhile, that bed session is just,
Yes.
a few minutes.
So real life,
Yeah.
when it comes to anybody, you and I, it will be real life.
Okay.
There are those moments when we have thought that real life has got nothing to do with our spirituality we were entrusted with as fathers. We are called fathers as clergy.
Yeah.
To be passed on to the next generation. Now, let me finish with this just briefly.
Yeah.
I was in my premarital counseling. And of course, our premarital counselor is Captain Titus Baraka. And then here is an orphaned boy who has never been raised in the direction of sexuality, who is going to marry a woman.
And has been watching group sex.
And has been watching group sex, and has been watching movies, and the styles practiced there. And guess what you have in the mind? What you have in the mind.
But you never told me that before.
What you have in the mind are the bits you picked in a movie, the bits you picked in a friend that told you.
And they are fresh in your mind.
And here we come, one day we come, and we are before a Reverend Canon Captain Titus as someone who is whom you should consult
and
about the things of Church of Uganda. And he tells us today no prayer, today no chasing demons, no breaking family background infirmities and yokes and bloodline spirits.
Today
we are talking about sex.
Like,
and then we wait for the scripture he's going to quote, and he does not quote it. And he talks about sex like in its reality.
311, black and white.
It is in its reality.
Now, did you feel like you were offended or?
Offended?
That is to say,
you don't know the world you're in, because like who has ever told you?
Yeah.
Who has ever told you that one time you must face this? And whether you want to close your eyes.
I didn't know this man can talk those things.
Especially you men in the collars.
Yes.
You make us believe that, you sleep with Jesus and You don't do that dirty stuff.
Yes. Yes, you know. And here you are, and you are going to be married to a woman whom reality of life has to call you to do that.
Do
To
what?
have sex with her.
Okay, I love that.
To romance, to kiss. And like you're going to do it like who has ever talked to you about it?
Yeah.
And that's why even us as clergy, our family relationship lives are very beautiful, the spiritual direction. But when reality of life strikes, it has brought down our spiritual.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hallelujah. I think this is beautiful, my dear friend, and we are getting
Wow.
somewhere. We are really getting somewhere. I'm personally reminded during my premarital counseling, I was partially counseled by my mentor, my spiritual father, and friends were like son and father. And when it got to that stuff of sex, I saw how he struggled, and he didn't really tell me much. Now, don't ask me what I finally did. Of course, God in His grace gave me the way, and went through this. Friend, as we get to the next part of this show, I just want to caution us. There is a way that we separate reality from, from faith and scripture. But I'm reminded of a passage in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 31 that says that, therefore, in every little thing that you do, whether you eat or drink, do to the glory of God. And friends, this includes sex. Who tells you sex is for the world? If the world has proliferated it, it has darkened it. It is for God. God created this stuff. Oh, let me not preempt the show and where we are going. Now, I want to go back to Captain Titus.
Yes, sir.
I want to come back to you. I think today we're just going to lay the foundation, but I want to come back to you and ask you this. What would you personally call sexuality and relationship in the world perspective, in the normal perspective? Just the way that it is. In other words, how do you see it today? Sexuality and relationships. Or let us zero it in to intimacy and relationship, not sexuality. Sexuality is big, our listeners. It is big. But what would you call intimacy and relationship, and how do you see it today in our life?
Wow. Today, intimacy and relationship has gone a different direction. And yet, in the real life, young people are being challenged about how do I handle intimacy. Because people are now being taught through internet. People are taught through the radios, because there are programs over the radio about the singers.
And this reminds me, there is a time we had a radio program entirely dedicated for that.
Exactly.
The Greater African Radio something.
Yeah.
Stuff poured out in black and
Exactly.
white.
And young people, they have earphones.
They do.
They go in their bedrooms, and you think he's sleeping, but he's very busy engaged in listening.
Or he's downloading this Ministry of Education material.
We have the internet, and some of our real life are provoked because either a friend has told you that, have you ever discovered this? Have you ever found out how it feels? Personally, I was introduced to masturbation by a friend. I didn't know.
Oh dear.
I find part of my body feel sensitive, but I didn't know that you can get some sense out of it again. And somebody told me that you can go do this, do that, and then when it started, it became very difficult. So today, people are introduced to such kind of intimacy in various ways. And to some, it has gone into some deviant actions. Some of them have developed what they call paraphilia, that is excessive sexual kind of perversion, that have drawn them into rape and many other things. Why? Because they don't know how to handle it. And when they try to handle it, they have gone into some areas whereby they fall into addiction. Addiction doesn't just begin like that.
No,
it begins slowly as you discover these kind of things. And others do not know how they behave when they go. They think when I'm dating a girlfriend, because now girlfriend and boyfriend is not necessarily today in today's life, it's not necessarily for marriage. I need somebody to hang out with, and somebody to go outing with. And as they go there, you find that it becomes like if when you go to the Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
it's associated that on that day everything has to be crowned up by
With
sexual
sex.
intercourse.
Oh, dear.
And you find that all these are what has come. If you are asking me about in today's nature, this is what is influencing the world. And this is what many young people, they want to be Christians.
Yeah.
But then the real life is
Also
really
pulls them.
pushing them into a corner of which they ask themselves, who will help me?
Yeah.
When I go to church, boy, there are bombs that comes from the pulpit. They are
cascade
preaching
me,
fire. Hey, when they say you do this, they say fire. Then you go home, you say, Lord, how do I deal with this fire? Fire is inside me.
Yeah.
And all this and that. But we are being really bombarded by internet, including newspapers. There are pages dedicated to such kind of things. This is what I do think, that sometimes there are different, when you go to internet, there are Christian websites, there are secular websites, and there are perverse websites. And now it becomes difficult for somebody to say, I want to go to Christian websites.
You're getting all these pop-ups.
And sometimes those pop-ups comes and they direct you to what appeals to your eyes. Pictures of naked people come in, and they become very difficult. Now,
deal with.
there it is about my choice.
Okay.
How do I choose? How do I really prepare for my future? It's a dilemma. It is a kind of challenge that come our way.
Okay.
And therefore, we do believe that probably in this conversation, David and Reverend Esmond, probably we can come up. I am putting myself in the shoes of somebody out there.
That is watching us.
A young man
that
is
following
listening
us.
to me.
Yeah.
He's going through all that privately. He is struggling with some of these issues. When they go to church, they are being bombarded by different things. The culture and the family, they are trying to do things. They are afraid. They don't share with their parents. Parents do not even want to share. Some parents, they want to say, go and talk to my son.
They're not
I think
even
it's
there.
beginning. Yeah. Some of them send the singers in private. Some of them send the uncles, go and talk to my son. It seems he's nowadays, I went to his bedroom and I found his bed sheets are like this. Go and talk to him. Why don't you as a father or a mother talk to your child?
Okay.
So this is really the challenge that we are having in. I'm still putting it in such a challenge that is this conversation going to lead us into what shall I do?
That is our prayer. But I want to say definitely we shall get to that point. So thank you very much, Captain Titus. His analysis has been basically it is the media and peer influence, and basically I think the role of the parents, what they are doing and what they are not doing, incidentally bring this effect upon this young man. Now, Reverend Esmond, still in the same angle but slightly different perspective. How do you see this reality of intimacy and relationships in congregations among the young generation that are believers? How are they handling intimacy and relationship? Is it any different from the way that the world is handling it? I mean, how do you see that? What is happening? Are they struggling? Are they branded? Do they have a group that is strictly doing the right thing? Do we have others that are, masquerading? We want to speak the real stuff that we went through as well.
The amazing thing is that I'm so excited about this program because it's like we are talking about things that even in church, myself, I can confess. I don't know how many times I've sat down and I say to the young people in fellowships and in churches and tell them, hey, you know what? Today we are going to talk about this. We are going to talk about your body. We are going to talk about the forces. I remember one time Canon Titus Baraka was talking about forces that are demeaning the cross, that are making it to appear too small. And yet these things he calls forces, they are real. It's real life. It's real life, but real life the devil has taken advantage of.
In his deception.
To make sure that he makes the cross to be very small. Yes. And reality of life has made us to even forget ourselves. For example, in psychology, they say men are physical and women are relational. That's why when it comes to broken hearts, boys sometimes, by the time they even feel they have broken very many girls' hearts, it is quite a good number. Because the way, has anyone even ever taught us that girls are relational in nature? Relational meaning that if they are relating with you, they are looking at the whole of you as a person.
Yep.
They think with their hearts.
They are looking at you from your hair to your toys, and in the inside of them they are like, okay, probably I would go around with this. So the thing, you go around playing around with them and telling this one, I love you, I love you, I love you. You can take it lightly.
But for them,
they absorb, they meditate, they reflect.
They surrender to it.
They succumb to it, they surrender to it. And when they say yes, they are committed to it. That's why there are some boys you are watching and some men who are watching. There are some ladies and girls that have clinged on you. Why? Because you were not taught that them are relational in nature. And for us, we are physical and infatuational in nature. Being physical and infatuational in nature, meaning that our things are for pig 20. If you don't have a speed governor or upon your body, like pig 20 simply means you will go have sex with this one.
You move on, look for another.
Given spiritual non-beings, I mean putting off the coats of being a clergy and a reverend.
You mean the boys behave like cocks? They just chase and finish and then they go away.
It's an infatuational thing that is built in the inside of men.
Now, are you seeing this
in church? To relate it back to church, this is what we don't want to talk about.
Okay.
This is what we don't talk about. That when we talk about the physical, when the Bible says, I beseech you, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you may offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, we don't tell them about that which should be sacrificed.
Okay.
That which should be sacrificed is the fact that every time, for us, seeing is believing. Let me tell you, every time you look at a beautiful girl, your body reacts.
Hey,
as a man. Your body reacts as a man. It does not need
even believers,
even reverends like me. By the way, on a serious note, even after being married.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You will look, because in church, that's what boys are facing. Even in the midst of a church, a beautiful girl will sit next to him, and you are busy pumping the gospel up on the pulpit. His body is saying, can't you even know that something good is just next to you?
Wait a moment. There are times you're driving, you're moving, and you see a daughter of Eve that appears like they just landed yesterday, and you want to look, and the Holy Spirit goes like, brother, we are going this way.
So for us, we have only stopped at that. Sacrifice your body as a living sacrifice.
But what are you sacrificing?
We are not telling them that you, young man, we are aware that as you're seated next to that girl,
there is a sacrifice to
you may not be even listening to this message I'm preaching. Your body is communicating to you that this is a girl I should wear. Boys, let me tell you, like I give you an example of boys, they will respond to what their body communicates according to what their eyes have seen. But that does not necessarily mean that love, that true love, has befallen them to begin moving in the direction of what their body are leading them to. Okay. And you were telling me how do relationship and intimacy in church, in the church circles, that's what happens. We have got real life and then lived in a fantasy as if it does not exist.
Edited it.
Yep. Yes, we have edited it the spiritual way, if I may say, and think that the things that we think are happening are actually not happening. By the virtue of our preaching what we preach. And so we end up denying these young men, talking straight to them, what their parents cannot tell them, what their uncles cannot tell them, and what the world is wrongly telling them, and what we are fearing to tell them. So we end up losing them. We've lost many of them. We have seen a lot of cohabiting in the church. It does not come from the blue. There's fellowships and churches where they come. Just imagine how much the church gathers. All people of different figures and styles and shapes and curves from all corners. And in our minds we think boys are not seeing and girls are not also feeling like they are seen.
Yes.
And so every time we've run away from that, we have missed to deliver the right information about relationship, about intimacy.
Okay.
About intimacy.
What must we do?
And at the end of the day, the what must we do, we've brought it faster than talking about the real life.
The real stuff.
Right.
I wish we would do the way we are doing right now, that we are talking about this, and after talking about it, you tell the young people in church, this is what you should do, about how you are feeling, about the reality of the life that you're facing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So you get it from Reverend Desmond that this stuff is happening. Unfortunately, even in Christian circles, you find that the difference is sometimes, minimal. And this calls for a lot of review, and especially on the part of us pastors and believers in general. I'm really enjoying this, and I hope that the Lord is touching you in one way or the other.
Somebody is out there saying that, why don't you organize a day and gather us together? Because we have questions. Some people are itching with the questions.
I hope we'll get a way of doing that. And we are praying about this scientific stuff. These days everyone is a scientist. You're a scientist at the wedding. You're a scientist when you're meeting people. It is okay, and I think we qualify now to get those governmental allowances.
Right.
All of us are scientists. Yeah, and I think today we'll be winding up in about 10 minutes' time, but we cannot wind up without doing this. Friends, listen to this. Now, Captain Titus, there is this girl and boy. They are fire spitting, demon chasing, but their flesh says, okay, when you're done with that stuff, I'm waiting right here. How are young people in your perspective specifically struggling? What stuff do they struggle with even when they are believers, in specific terms, in terms of relationship and intimacy?
Okay, thank you so much. What I do see is that people are struggling life. Okay. In Christianity, there is this kind of putting on a prosopon. Psychologists call it prosopon, kind of a mask. We love putting on a mask. When we are Christians, we do not want to be real to ourselves.
We have a duality.
When you know very well that spirituality, there is a kind of spirituality that comes in. When you are spiritual, you suck a lot of oxygen inside to show that you are spiritual in such a way. I think one of the challenges they have is that people fear to be real about real life. To come either to their pastors to say, here is what I'm struggling with. What must I do? That is what people are struggling with. People sometimes, when they begin relationship or they are dating, they don't look for mentors right early. They first end up either messing up, somebody has got pregnant before they get mentored. Because there is importance of getting a mentor.
And when I speak to them, some of them tell you that we mentors want to go too far.
Exactly.
Even when they get mentors, they will tell you they don't want you to get into every area of their lives.
Exactly. But it's important that a mentor should not supposed to be like a supervisor. A mentor just guides you, and you be open to each other.
Okay.
That you can share. And it shouldn't be something that you be embarrassed about. Say about your real life. And somebody should be confidential about issues. And to me, that is what I am seeing as the greatest challenge. And secondly, is people are struggling in about personal values. How do I differentiate about values? Regardless of the Bible first. What are some of the values that I need to take? Because even people who are not born again, they are struggling with sexuality. And sometimes they regret. And they feel so much troubled in their inner being. It's because they don't know how to get, what are the values I need to get in life? What are the relational values, the personal values, and the practical values that I need to get in my life in order to be a person of integrity, so that I can forge my future in such a way that I can be able to grow up as a responsible person. That is when now a person needs to know those things. Then you can pick Christian values in order to put into your life to make sure you can put all these things together.
Praise the Lord. Now, our viewer, I know that definitely the Spirit of God is getting you somewhere. Captain Titus talked about that. But as we wind up that particular segment, many young people that I've talked to are struggling with this. What you call the guilt conscience or the condemnation. Abortions are happening, sexual immorality is happening, but even when someone comes to church and they have dealt with this and they've been exposed to the grace of God, they continue to believe that they are not forgiven. And that kind of takes them back into this issue and redoing it, and they feel like they're not good enough. And habits are happening, and like what we call it, you're dominated by a habit. It's a bondage. Yes, someone struggles with this kind of bondage: masturbation, pornography, lesbianism, use of sex toys. This is happening. But the problem is, because we are expected to have a certain holy life, you put on that character, you don't want to open up. We pastors are too holy, we scare you, we don't share our story. You think we just landed from heaven. This is why this show is coming up, and we know God is going to take us very far. Yep. Now finally for today, as we wind up Reverend Desmond, what are we going to do in these two perspectives? One, what should a young man or young woman that is watching us right now, that is going to receive this recording at some point, that is going to be invited by a friend, what should a young man in that way, that is struggling in that way, do? And secondly, what must we change as pastors? We are preaching the real word. We are praying for people. We do deliverance. Yep. And this stuff manifests and goes, but that quite often in our deliverance sessions, the same person again, and you do the same deliverance again. So in those two fronts, what must we do? What is the young man and young lady that is struggling with pornography, promiscuity, adultery, masturbation, lesbianism, sex toys, addictions, and what must they do? And then what must we change as pastors as we wind this up for today?
Okay. I'm reminded of 2 Samuel chapter 11. This is what David faced.
Yeah.
He's a king. A king called a king after God's own heart.
Yes, yes.
But even being a man after God's own heart
1 Samuel 13:14
does not take away real life. Does not take away real life from you. You will stand at your palace and look at Bathsheba and admire Bathsheba.
I remember you have Ahinoam, Abigail, about 6 already.
Yes. You have 6. Real life is telling you, it doesn't matter how anointed you are, there is real life. There is real life, and you will have to face it. You will have to face it. So, one of the important things that David is loved about by God is the way he realized, now, real life has caught up with me. Let me run back to my daddy and tell him, I have a flesh.
I've messed.
I have a flesh and the body, and I have messed up my life.
I love that.
Now the challenge with young people, they really feel that even when they mess up, and sometimes the reason as to why they battle with whatever they battle with, and in Muluganda they call it okuguba, and they develop a thick skin in sin, is the failure to say, how am I going to go to Captain Titus and tell him, I have slept with so-and-so, and I've slept with so-and-so, and I masturbate, and I do, and I'm a homosexual, and I have done A, B, C, and D, and how is he going to get it? I think you talked about pastors. We need to come to a reality of knowing that there are moments we must allow ourselves listen to the things that we don't want to listen to.
The real stuff.
The things about real life. And young people must understand that they should learn how to talk about things they don't want to talk about people, I will not say like us, but many that have availed themselves to listen to what you don't want to tell them. And I remember also Ezekiel. Ezekiel, when he was called by God, he was shown the living creatures, and there was a face of a human being. The face of a human being is a representative of a body. Of a body. He was trying to God was trying to tell him, much as I've called you to a higher calling, never forget you have flesh. That flesh that admires, that flesh that wants to have sex, that flesh that wants to sleep with that man and that girl, that flesh that masturbates, that flesh that admires good iPads, iPhones, and Samsung's Galaxy and things.
Because you're living in the world.
you're in the world. That flesh where even when you are in the church, when you hug that girl and you feel her breasts,
You feel tingly.
something happens down there, and then
There's that anointing
you
that-
play morality, you play spiritual.
Uh-huh.
The earlier we realize that we were not made out of metals,
The better.
but bodies, the better we shall receive help from the one who created these bodies that we are struggling with. And the earlier we submit under mentors, whom we are open about the reality of the things we are going through. About mentors we can reach out, and you don't tell him, Reverend, I want you to pray for me. What? Pray
You
for
see,
me
you see.
okay, there are some spirits that attack me, and you feel your body is not well.
Walking
Instead of
to
telling
work
them, I want you to pray for me because I feel like I want to have sex with the other one.
Yeah.
And then you feel it's so awkward to be mentioned.
Because God
before-
says, I've called you friends.
Yes.
Now, when you're talking with a friend, John 15:14, you open up.
Hey, you open up.
I no longer call you slaves.
So we are no longer going to shy away from this.
I
I
love that.
remember when there's a girl we met, and she came and told me, I want to connect my friend to my dad, because when my dad gets to have sex with this friend of mine, my friend will not treat me like the way my stepmother is treating me. That is a P5 girl.
Oh,
And
dear.
you think those girls you're with in that home where you're watching us from, you think they
They
are
are so
as
young.
innocent
As they appear.
and ignorant about things as you think. So the earlier young men, you realize you have a flesh, and the earlier as us realize that we should listen to the things we don't want to listen to, the better we shall be of
Yeah,
great
I
help.
think before you really wind up,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say this, that we need to understand that God has created us fearfully and wonderfully in his image. He created sex,
It is-
and he created those feelings. The only challenge we have is how to handle them. That God has given us a freedom of choice. But otherwise, some of us Christians demonize sex.
Yeah.
We demonize the feelings. And we have gone to these pastors that say, cast it out, it is inside me.
Now, if it goes
you go home,
completely
it is what God has put there.
Yeah.
You only need to seek guidance on how do I handle it.
Okay.
It's there, God has put it there. One day you will need it. You only need to get guidance. Don't demonize it. Don't demonize those feelings, but make right choice. Make, like the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 12, that all things are permissible for
not
me,
all.
but not all things are beneficial.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, when those feelings come, yes, it is now taking me, it's taking me. Is it going to be beneficial for me to run after that girl? What I want to say is, it's a funny word which somebody one day mentions, that let your erection not show you your direction.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Just something
We are not
small.
talking of political election, but
Erection.
may the Spirit of God bless you, so.
Erection. As a boy, you know that.
Let's
Okay.
not give
we
you
are
a
talking of
direction.
2021 here.
Actually, Captain Tyson, this is what we should tell people. And it will sound as if we are not spiritual. The issue is, the demons we chase, some of them will not go away until you have a talk like one we are having.
And when they go, they actually look for other people. According to the perspective of Matthew 14, they look for other people. They really do.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. This has been the Real Life and Faith show. Basically, today we've been unveiling it and laying the foundation, friend. And we shall be getting to you according to the grace and guidance of the Lord quite often. Today we've basically been dealing with the foundations or the ABC of intimacy and relationship. And we've been dealing with the real life issues of how sex and intimacy and relationships appear in the world setting and how they are in the church setting and stuff of that nature. And we pray that you'll focus on getting to, face real life with the help of the Lord. We call this the Jesus at the well encounter. We face real life the Jesus way. We are tired of masking stuff, and this is what we've been addressing. One African saying goes like, maize bears fruit once because it does not plant its roots very far. That is why it dries up. And another saying says that it is only a fool that will test the waters with both their legs. You see? So we are praying that you're not going to, continue in that kind of stuff, but after testing what the Lord has to offer, we shall work with him and the guidance of the Holy Spirit to see that we are transformed forever. Right. I've been Reverend David Kagwa, your host, and I was with my colleague, Reverend Esponselu Njoji, and Reverend Captain Titus Baraka. Amen. Till next time, we'll get together once again. We want to say a word of prayer before we depart. Hallelujah. I know if my mother was watching this, would be like, what? My son is talking about sex. But right. It is okay. This is what we want to change. No, I know that our producer is going to be giving you our contact lines over there. If you have an issue,
comment.
Yes.
Subscribe.
Yes.
Send a message.
If
Ask
you need
a
counseling.
question.
If you need counseling,
yes,
you can call those numbers.
Yes. Exactly.
We will be able to respond to you.
So get in touch. We shall pray and walk together. It's the Jesus at the well experience. It's real life meeting faith. We are tired of masking ourselves. In the spirit, we don't want this corona stuff, sanitizers and stuff of that nature. Let Jesus take charge.
Amen.
Let us pray and sign off. Father, we bless you because you love us. We know that you remain God, and the Bible says in Psalm 103 verse 19 that the Lord reigns sovereign. He's seated in heaven and reigns sovereign over each and everything in the world. That includes sex. That includes intimacy. That includes our struggles. And you know them, and some that are going to happen tomorrow, you're already watching them and in slow motion. You're watching the replay and in slow motion even before they happen. Yes. We are praying for our sister that is watching us, our brother that is watching us, struggling with pornography, masturbation, promiscuity, adultery. We are praying for our friend that is nearly breaking up in marriage. We are praying for people that are struggling with addictions and various life issues that are not only about intimacy, that God, they shall meet you at that point of reality. And my Father, that they shall have you in every way in their lives, oh God. That we shall not separate real life from faith, because faith is about real life. Wherever we go, in the car, at our workplaces, when we are tempted there and then, may Jesus be close. May he take our hands. Uphold your people, especially that one that is at the brim of the grave, that has been contemplating suicide because of all this stuff. Do not do it. Focus on the Lord. He is right there in your real life. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed.
Amen.
God bless you. See you till next time. Jesus is Lord right there in your real life. He wants to take hold of your hand and make you successful in whatever you do. God
real
bless.
Life and your faith.